here in today's preseason game.
A little bit, and Mom had some words of advice as well as she was watching the Giants and the Patriots play preseason action. Final preseason games for the two teams. Giants open up at Washington 2 weeks from Sunday. Pats home to Raiders 2 weeks from Sunday. Here's Dart. He's looked really good this preseason, keeping his eyes down the field. Gunnar Olszewski here. That's a 50-yard completion in the end. Into the red zone 3 plays later. Greg Dulcich takes the dart. From Jaxson, Malik Neighbors loving it. Full support. The Giants, all 3 quarterbacks, threw it all around on these Patriots who seem to lack some depth this year. Again, dart. It's going for a run, and whoa! Gets hit hard. You see his helmet hit the turf a bit on the tackle. The ref is going to look at him. Watch it right here. He can't brace himself as his arms are pinned. Brian Dayball saying, dude, we got to slide. He's under the tent. Listen to Mom. Jameis Winston came in the game for Dart, and that's a nice touchdown pass right there. Getting the job done. Russell Wilson, he did not see action. But the 3 Giant quarterbacks who did played very well. Tommy DeVito, 17-20. But the concern was Dart. Like, man, what am I doing? So this is it. Dart, this preseason, let's break it down. 12 drives, 5 touchdowns, 2 field goals, 4 punts, and 1.
Exciting final game of the preseason. We've got Evan, we've got Deuce, we've got Paul. I'm Claudia. 42-10 final. The home team won.
Down the drain.
Undefeated season down the drain. Giants, though, put up 30-plus in all 3 of their preseason games. As we knew, starters weren't out there for the Patriots. Some defensive guys, though, and on the O-line we were surprised, which we'll get into all that, the good, the bad, the injured. I guess, Paul, just first reaction, though, to that 42-10 final.
Yeah, they just didn't have the same kind of energy, I think, that we saw in the first 2 games, especially the first one. The Giants had a lot of that buzz on their sideline all night. I know the crew made a big deal of that, but it was apparent. It was pretty evident when you were watching. And we knew that they weren't going to have a lot of frontline guys, but I still was a little disappointed. Individually, I was looking for something from Ben Wooldridge. I don't think he played as well as he had in the previous 2 games. And then some guys that we talked about a lot in the pregame. I'm sure we're going to get into it. Some individuals like Javon Baker would be one. I think Jordan Polk was another one that you guys. Is this the end of the world? Of course not. But, some disappointing individual results, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd agree. You kind of have to dig deep to find the meaningful good and bad performances rather than, piling on a guy who might not even be on the team in a couple of days. So, yeah, it was it was a little disappointing just to see it, but at the end, again, I feel like you're checking a box here and you're trying to get out of there healthy. And
certainly Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels, I think, had that mindset in the second half. I think they ran the ball knowing,
hand it off.
Just get out of here.
Yeah, I have a tough time taking too many big takeaways from a game like this. It felt like outside of a few guys, Kyle Duggar, Keon White, a couple of the offensive linemen, Jared Wilson, Ben Brown, Real Peppers randomly playing a little bit in the first quarter after not getting a lot of practice reps over the last week. But besides those guys, I don't know how many players, and I say this with all due respect, are going to be here after 4 p.m. on Tuesday. So I have a tough time really putting anything there. But I would agree with Paul. My key was effort and finish. And I'm not trying to say that they didn't show effort, but the energy definitely was not there the same way that you saw in the first 2 preseason games. But again, how many of the guys that played tonight are really going to be on this roster in 4 days? I can't really say.
I mean, there's a lot of bad, which I know we'll get to, but shall we start with the good? I think we can find some good in there. I know Kyle Duggar was a name that we talked about a lot in the pre-show, and we're going to talk about him a lot here. 6 tackles, second most interception, 2 pass deflections. I think he started off a little shaky, but then he seemed to get comfortable out there.
Yeah. I thought, anytime he's playing out there, it's the balance between, all right, well, is he doing enough against the players that he's playing against? And, had that interception thrown to him. But otherwise, I thought he showed up pretty well. And it's just such a hard player to really consider getting rid of. it's quite a stretch. I think he'd really have to fall down the depth chart. And is there never a situation this year where, Jabril Peppers gets hurt or Jalen Hawkins or, he's clearly got some talent. So I think Kyle Duggar's done enough to stick around. I just don't know how much of a role he's going to have right out of the gate.
He was out there for a while. Was that weird?
He played a lot.
32 snaps.
He played a lot. There's no question about it. And I'm with Evan. I'm not taking away anything necessarily from the individual performance, but I would say a guy with his stature to have to play that much in this game would have what the answer is. I don't know why he's fallen so far out of favor. This can't be just about a scheme fit. There's got to be something more to this. But they have their reasons. I'm with Mike. If he's not one of your best 53 players, I'm not sure I know what I'm looking at. And I would make an argument that I can't put him any lower than second on the depth chart at safety. And I think that you could make an argument he's one. But they obviously don't see it that way, whether it's because of the contract or something else. But I thought just the fact that he kept playing tonight in a situation where I think some veterans would have shut it down, I think that's commendable.
Yeah, he was the best player on the field for the Patriots tonight, I would say. And I just thought that if you're looking for him to be in the right places in coverage, and if it's a scheme thing and it's a system thing and grasping the defense, he was in the right place all night long. I thought that he was on his P's and Q's, even though the interception was an overthrow that was kind of gifted to him. He's playing up top as the post safety and man-to-man, and he's right there with the vertical route and over-the-top coverage there. So I just thought, looking at some of the replays even, that he's just playing deep safety and he's there. He's on the spot for a handful of times. I thought he was physical. Guys catching the ball in front of him, he's laying the wood and putting slip a little bit. But what I see from him with the deep safety stuff is that they're playing a lot more quarters or split safety looks, where he has fully on board with in terms of the mental stuff. But tonight I thought he was in all the right places, and he played a lot of cover three, post safety, cover three, and man post safety today. And I just thought that he did the job at a pretty high level. I know he's out there against backups, but to your point, Paul, he's definitely one of their best 53 players. And then he played his butt off tonight too. So I just don't really know what else you could look for him.
All right, so good. We can say officially Kyle Duggar might be the best.
He's on our good list. Mike, I'll give you one.
You want to burn off Jeremiah Webb real quick?
Okay,
with a nice punt return and a touchdown catch.
Yeah, he had a solid 2-minute drill.
Him and Giles combined for 4 catches, 45 yards in that final drive of the first half. So
yeah, I mean,
two of your guys.
Yeah, they did only complete 10 passes, so we're looking a little bit grasping at straws here, but
cherry picking. Yeah.
For a kid, we weren't really talking too much about him going in. We were spending most of our time on Giles and Baker, and had a nice little night. Maybe it's enough to earn him a practice squad spot, some kind of developmental spot. They've got a lot of injuries right now at wide receiver. I don't know if Javon Baker's done enough, but kid shows up last game. Maybe.
I mean, does it concern you guys, though? One pass, and I know it was not the starters out there, but one pass completed, 4 yards with just under 5 to go in the second. And we didn't see a ton of passing in the first 2 games. I know at least for the first game for sure. That was a big issue. Travion was their best pass catcher deep into the second. Yeah. And this was an issue they had historically bad last year as well with their
Are you
starters.
trying to take us right into the bats? Because I think I'm ready to go.
I think we got covered this. Unless you have more goods.
Larger conversation, though, that to go on to the bats.
The passing game in general, yeah.
Yeah, and also just backup quarterback. Josh Dobbs didn't play tonight, but I don't think that Josh Dobbs has shown very well in the preseason either. And so it had a really rough joint practice with Minnesota. Kind of bounced back on the second day in Minnesota, to be fair to him. But I thought the first day, even Vrabel came out and said, can't make some of those throws. So I just look at backup quarterback in general. And I tend to say, if Drake May gets hurt and they're on their backup quarterback, the season is kind of in jeopardy anyways. It's not like you're really most teams aren't planning on winning very many games with their backup quarterback, but it's a spot. I was kind of hoping that Woolridge would show us something tonight and take that by storm. I don't think he really did with his performance outside of that 1-2 minute drive to end the first half. So I think it's a combination of wherever you want to go with it, guys, like passing offense or just backup quarterback, looking specifically at tonight.
Yeah, so just real quick, I tried to be as generous as I could with my good list. I mean, I thought they had some pass rush early in the game. I thought they made Jaxson Dart move around a little bit. Now, unfortunately, when he moved around, he made some plays when he did it. But I thought Farms and Keon White a little bit, just flashed a little bit of pressure. And I also thought Marte Mapu was kind of active. He had a really nice pass breakup, knocking a ball loose on a early play. Not a whole lot else to hold your hat on tonight.
At least not the players that count.
No, I'm just going off of who played tonight.
Right.
But I didn't even with who played tonight. There were, I think Jeremiah Webb was probably the one guy who stood out. Then Mike, you mentioned him.
Nailed it.
One thing we all sort of hit on was just finishing this preseason clean, and luckily no injuries. But there was penalties, there was loose plays. That was the big thing that Vrabel vocalized coming out of that first half, and it was an issue. Is there something that you could really pinpoint, Deuce, when you looked at that, or just overall sort of sloppy?
Well, I think we've watched some bad offensive football here the last couple of years, and now you're seeing it with a third-string quarterback and a third-string line, and really the last 4 receivers standing right now. So, how much were we expecting of Ben Woldridge? I think like Evan said, he's had some good this summer, but clearly they were putting their backups up. They were kind of ready to pack things up. I think,
except for the the bulk of the first half, they had 2 guys that might be starting, in Ben Brown and Jared Wilson. As part of that line now. I agree with Mike. We've seen some bad offensive football in recent years, and we saw some of that tonight. We had, I think, Marcus Bryant lined up in the backfield on a play. That kind of just highly preventable mistakes. Those self-inflicted penalties that we really haven't seen much of during the summer. Some of those came tonight. I think they had an offside lining up in the neutral zone in the first half. So way too many penalties. Certainly the defense tonight was just not good, but I'm not going to get lost in that. Like Evan said, they've been playing a lot of quarter coverage during the course of the preseason and things like that. I think that's kind of basic looks that I think they'll spin the dial a little bit more than that in the regular season. So I don't want to fixate on that. But one of the things that I talked about in the pregame, I wanted to see the kicking situation. I'm a little disappointed they didn't go back and forth tonight. It was really just Borregales, and he had a chance from 49 and pushed it wide right. So I don't know. I mean, in my view, I think Romo's been the better guy. Going to be interesting to see who ends up winning that battle.
Yeah, it seemed a little like they were giving Borregales a chance tonight to go out there and own it, see how he bounced back from that miss. He did make the extra point, but yeah, it's going to be really interesting this week to see what they do with those guys, because on one hand, you feel like you can always kind of find a kicker, but Romo's been here for a while, so I don't really want to just toss him aside. He's probably won the battle, and it's really hard to say this is our draft pick. He hasn't been great, but we're just going to ride with him. Like, you got to pick the best guy, and it's hard to say that it's been Borregales.
My guess is one of those guys the loser will end up on the practice squad.
Sure. Yeah.
More than likely. I mean, assuming that they can get through waivers, but
are you assuming that's Borregales at this point?